Welcome everyone to another episode of Around the Block Talk. Today we have with us Mr. Dave Obada. He's currently located in Dubai, UAE. He's the Chief Executive Officer at Aza Network. He's an industry veteran, having spent several years in the space of media and this industry. So very happy to have you here, Dave, and I'll hand it over to you. We're excited to hear.
All right, thank you so much, Prateek. It's an honor to be here. I followed what you've done for a bit and you're doing so well. Thank you so much. I had time to go through some of your previous meetings as well. Very, very loaded. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Thank you, Dave. So also we can now start with the topic that we have today of NFTs and blockchain. Yeah. Also what we are doing at your particular firm.
All right, so NFTs are so exciting. I mean, people typically at the moment, people just want to make money. When people think of the blockchain, the first thing they think about is how to make money from it. And this is important, but there's a lot more than making money from it. I've been in this space since 2015, 2016. So I've cut my teeth in this industry significantly. So, but we saw that as of 2021 and into 2022, there's been a lot of buzz around the word NFTs, which is also one of the derivatives of the blockchain. First of all, I love the name of the show, Around the Block. We're typically discussing about technology within the blockchain space. The very first NFT was created sometime in 2014. I think May 2014. And since then, we've seen the evolution of what it has become. It gained virality in 2021 with the advent of improved transactions. And people have typically made a ton of money off trading NFTs. What are NFTs? Non-fungible tokens. We have fungible tokens and we have non-fungible tokens. So for the layman out there, a non-fungible token essentially means a token that is non-exchangeable. It has a unique identity. All of our currencies are all fungible. So if you have $1, that $1, there are a million other $1 and they're all fungible because it's the same $1. But NFTs are not that way. Every minted character in an NFT is unique, has its own identity. And what has empowered this innovation is the blockchain. The blockchain is amazing. We've seen the first interaction with the blockchain with transactions. Bitcoin was established in 2009. And the very first transaction we saw was of the purchase of the pizza. And we always do the anniversary of that every other time. But since then, we've seen how transactions have evolved. Now we have over 14 to 15,000 currencies in the market, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to Ripple to Solana. All these tokens have come and they've played a significant roles. But now the market is moving from what we know as Web 2 into Web 3. Web 2 essentially was what we all grew up with. We knew how that operated, but now we're seeing better integration where we're leveraging on the technology of the blockchain to create real world use cases. And that's where we step in. At Aza, the company that we started, I and a couple of people, what we essentially want to build is how can we, convert the present system, education, entertainment, how can we create solutions from education, entertainment, and transpose this into the blockchain. And that's why we built Aza typically. So what we're doing at Aza is seeing how beyond NFTs, we want to take center stage in certain aspects. Education is important. We all must learn. We're all learning. We're social creators. We learn, we evolve. And with the limitations that we've had in Web 2, where people are typically not able to access proper information at all times, we're trying to see how we can bridge that gap, leveraging on the blockchain. But even more importantly, COVID struck 2 years ago, and it affected a lot of us, and one important area that was hugely affected is our mental health. Even more so, recently with the market crash, we all are conversant with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, all the markets are down. Bitcoin is down by over 45%. And this can impact you in certain ways, meaning that if you bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin, this time perhaps sometime last year, now you would have lost 45% of that. That can impact your mental health in so many ways. So another thing that we are building in my company is we're building a solution where we can help people improve the quality of their mental health. So we have an app that is coming soon where people can have access to that app, and then they're able to protect with the ingenuity with which you created the structures in our app. We have activities, we have games, people get to just engage these things and helps to protect their mental health in so many ways. But guess what? Even with that, they're going to earn from doing that. So we're creating the read to earn platform leveraging on the blockchain. We're creating the live to earn, the travel to earn. So there's lots of integrations we're building into our project. That's why it's a network. It's called the ASIN network. But we're building what we call the Meta Originals first. So the Meta Originals is what we're going to zone into, which is also an NFT. I'm bridging them because essentially the Meta Originals is an NFT platform. And the NFTs, as we know, when they started, we had the doodles, we had a couple of other projects that came. They were only based on profile picture, profile picture applications. But now people have come to understand that it's not enough just to have a picture. We want to have what we know as utilities. And thanks to the blockchain, there is a trove of utilities we can create from leveraging on NFTs. So people are building communities around exercising. People are building communities around all sorts of activities. Play to earn games, even though we are also building play to earn, but we were tired of seeing how the play to earn games were because often they are of lower standard. So we don't want it to be play to earn. We want it to be play and earn. So we're taking our time to intelligently create NFT games, NFT universities. So we have even what we know as a watch to earn. So imagine you are just regularly, we all read, but imagine you get incentivized for even reading. This is how powerful the blockchain technology has made us have access to amazing concept innovations and much more. So NFTs essentially, for me, from where they started from, it was really nothing. The very first NFT was the joke because it was 2012 to 2014 that was created. But in 2017, 2018, we've seen an advent, and then we saw the next phase of NFTs, which was typically people creating PFPs, just profile picture. As we've seen the the board app Yacht Club. Then we've seen communities start to build, and now we are in the game of utilities. The NFTs with the best utilities will essentially win. So, but now people are only engaging in them because of the money. People want to make a lot of money. People want to flip NFTs, but it's bigger than that. In our world, we know Facebook as a company, Meta, they are transitioning into building what we know as the Metaverse, which is a whole new spectrum entirely. All built on the blockchain, a virtual world built on the blockchain. So in the near future, we're going to be working on the blockchain. People already, their jobs on the blockchain already. People engaging in the metaverse. People are building infrastructure for real estate in the metaverse. People are building games. People are building schools. There's a lot that's going to come, into the space, thankfully, because of the blockchain technology. So this is just an introduction as to how we're positioning ourselves for what's coming next.
Sure, certainly. So you mentioned several aspects you're working on at your firm. So there is there's a university aspect, there's a learning aspect, there's a gaming aspect. So why did you choose to work on these particular aspects, and do you feel these are all linked at some point?
Yes, partly because I'm African, it's important that we build. The population in Africa is enormous. I'm sure in India, you guys have over 1 billion people there as well. And one key thing is education. The government has not been able to give, and we know that if they say that the future of the nation is with our young leaders, these people need to be educated properly. But without access to that, it becomes a bit difficult. So what we're trying to build is decentralize the power centers for education. We're going to be partnering with too many, universities to allow for them to create courses leveraging on the metaverse. So we want to build universities in the metaverse where anybody anywhere that has access to internet is going to adopt that. And we know that internet exploration is increasing at a rapid pace thanks to Elon Musk, who's building Starlink, and many other companies that are actively engaging in providing internet infrastructure. We're going to need content that is beyond entertainment. We're going to need content that's going to be educational. So that's why we are focusing. And in Africa, there is a huge deficit for the knowledge base. Many people don't know a lot because they don't have access to quality synchronized data. So what we're trying to do is build a synchrony of educational resources that will help people move from point A to point B. And the numbers are a lot. Even though we're not focusing on just Africa alone, everywhere in the world, education is needed. And we want to ensure that people, when they get into the metaverse, they're not just there to play games alone, but they're there to learn, to engage, and even earn while doing this. So that's why we chose, education. And for gaming, the numbers also add up. People typically don't know that there's a lot you can learn from even gaming. There are so many games that have been created that allow for people to learn as they play, as they engage. I've played a ton of games in my life, and I've seen the power of game because it's called edutainment. You can partner with both education and entertainment and make it even easier for the next generation, the Gen Zs, the Gen A to learn. So that's why we focus on education and then gaming. When we talk about gaming, even though we're going to be building combat games and all, we want to, as much as possible, build games that would that will help the mental. We're really all about the mind. We're really all about the mind. How do we improve the quality of the mind? And that's why we chose these two places: the numbers, the technology, the timing, and of course the innovation that helps us sponsor this project.
Right, indeed. So we as a company at IDS, we are also working on a very similar project. We are building a polyversity, that's a university in Metaverse, and we are working with the Indian government to actually lay out the infrastructure at this point. So I'll be very actually interested to understand from you, what kind of design or what kind of concept you have for your product. How will the product actually be, and how do you imagine students and content creators using it?
All right, it's pretty easy. Our structure is pretty easy. Right now, we know that we know the Oculus glasses, and everybody, wants to get a grip of one of them. I think Facebook had bought them over, and essentially, when we wear those glasses, all that we do is to to play games. We walk around, play games, and just engage. But what we're trying to do is to begin to build, because everything is content. So we're incentivizing creators to begin to curate content that not only entertains, but also sort of like helps to inform and educate people. So of course, you cannot learn everything in the metaverse, but we're going to make some things even easier, So we're building our own Oculus glasses. We already have contacted some companies over there in China to help build the architecture for these. And then we're going to link that up even with our mobile application. So even if you don't have the Oculus glasses, with our mobile application, even though the experience will be much better with your glasses, so when you access the glasses, we already have our software inbuilt. You log into the platform, and then you can choose from a trove of, we all know what Udemy is. Imagine Udemy in the metaverse, where content creators are creating. So we just log into and access the content that you prefer. So we're trying to incentivize both creators. This is where it makes a lot of sense more. So even those who create the courses, they're going to get paid when people subscribe to their courses. But guess what? Even you, as an interactor with the content, when you finish in phases, you also get paid with our original tokens. So we're incentivizing both the creators and even those of, even the users who are participatory. It's just, learn to earn. Basically, we're really redefining that culture. So once you get into the app, you can engage and access different course content. But even if you don't have the app, to get a better experience with our glasses, you enter into the metaverse and you begin to learn, and you earn whilst doing that. So that's a very simple way to just summarize it. Everything is in our white paper for even much more documentation process.
Right, indeed. So also the kind of economy that you're trying to create here. So let's look at the Web2 business model in the So a student pays, and that money then the content creator earns and the platform earns. So now you're creating a kind of a business model or an ecosystem where the student can also earn tokens, the content creator can earn tokens. So how does that actually work, this kind of economy? Because where is the infusion of money or infusion of tokens coming from? If everyone earns, then who pays for this economy?
Okay, that's an intelligent question. Remember that we're engaging first with the NFTs, essentially. So when you purchase an NFT, money is entering into the ecosystem, right? And then with those funding, we're able to even create much more. But when money enters our ecosystem, we ensure that the money sort of like stays within the ecosystem, because we're not incentivizing other people. So let me give you an instance. You've all heard of the Stepping app. I'm sure you've heard of Stepping, the Walk to Earn app. Very similar structure. You buy an NFT, and then you access the application, and then when you walk with the NFT, you get to earn from working with the NFT. We're doing something quite similar, only that we are focused a lot on improving the quality of thinking and mental health. Essentially, you buy our NFT, you access our application. Without having our NFT, it becomes a bit difficult to engage in all the use cases within our own app infrastructure. So you buy our NFT, money enters into our ecosystem. We're also getting paid for transaction fees. But beyond that, people can also mint, because we also have an NFT market zone coming into play. People can also mint. So these are use cases. In-game economy, there are certain things you also need to buy within the app. So we have two tokens. One is an inflationary token, and one is a reward token. We have the original token, and we have the Stardust token. The Stardust token runs the ecosystem. So money comes in when people buy our NFTs and engage, and there are also other discounts we're going to be working on. So for instance, we have the lifestyle package where people are going to be able to travel for less. We're working with different companies to partner to seeing how we can bring down certain percentages. So payments are coming through. As long as payments come through, we have transaction fees that are coming in to sustain the economy. So the liquidity pool will essentially be filled. Once there is a demand, because of incentivizing, we'll have liquidity pools that essentially ensure that, money keeps coming. And then once there's a demand for the token based on the use cases we're creating, we should easily thrive with that. So people buy NFTs, people can also mint NFTs. You can breed NFTs as well. But these things all charge transaction fees, just as you can mint shoes. We have helmets. We have our NFT, our what's it called? Our NFTs are like helmets, really beautifully designed. So once you buy one NFT, you can even breed the NFTs. When you perform activities, you get paid for those activities. And in app, there's so many things you can, just like Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity is a major token, but then they have the SLP. SLP is the in-game, in-game token where you can also use to purchase things. So it just keeps the economy revolving. We've done a very brilliant job at designing the economy. So money comes in and then stays in, and we find a way to incentivize. Only those who are actively engaging and working will earn. It's as simple as that.
Right, indeed. So you say the major influx will happen through the sale of NFTs. And so what is this audience who will actually purchase this NFT? So is it students and then who will participate? How does that work?
Yes. So essentially now our target audience is most of the people who are engaging in the NFTs are Gen Zs. They are the ones who are excited. Millennials haven't really gotten the grip of it. Baby boomers don't even care. So our core targets are millennials who are builders and also the Gen Z who are participators. So we want to create an infrastructure where the educational institutions we want to partner with, most institutions in Africa, for instance, they don't have anything in virtual reality. Yeah. So for this, we can build infrastructure for them and they give their students access. So that's why we have an inflationary token, and that's why we can also breed new NFTs, right? So our core target are the Gen Zs who are engaged in the space. Most of them do not protect their mental health. So activities within our ecosystem will ensure that they sort of like help themselves by working with some of the in-game apps. We've partnered with some firms to help us build this infrastructure in there. So the Gen Zs are our core target. The millennials also are our core targets, and we're building for them. But we're also going to be partnering with institutions to get the audience from there as well and build for them. So typically that's how we're working.
Okay, sure. So also so you're building a token economy within your product. So one challenge that I see in building that is actually to give the right incentive, to decide how much tokens does one earn and what is the method of earning those tokens. Yeah. So what is that? How did you tackle that particular challenge?
Yes, I like how you understand how this industry works. So in all honesty, we're still even working through that out because there are so many challenges. If you pay too much, your token is going to be much proliferated. If you pay too little, there's not enough motivation to get people to want to jump on your behalf. So you have to find the right balance. And we've been going back and forth, but essentially our system ensures that. That's why we have an inflationary token. We cannot have a stable coin. You know what happened to Luna. So we're very careful with that. It's very difficult to build stable coins. So we don't want to be pegged against anything. So we're building an inflationary token to power the ecosystem. But then we have two tokens. So now, in the beginning, of course, to incentivize people is always normal. The payment will be slightly higher to get people in. So things like referral bonuses will come through. There'll be much more payments coming through when you engage in the activities because there are less people. But as the number increases, in percentages, that would also impede the revenue that comes through as well. So at all times, we're going to be checking our total supply to see how much actually, so we don't need to mint unnecessarily. And then we also see how much it takes to incentivize it. The data we have as we grow will help us to redefine those statistics. How you start is not how you're going to end, because in the beginning, we're going to have to give a bit more than required because we're new to cut our teeth in the game. So people will jump in. But as we grow, we'll begin to adjust a few things. Just like Steemit, when Steemit started, they were giving a lot more tokens for posting, upvotes. But as the platform began to grow, those began to reduce. But they didn't go further with their marketing, and that kind of limited the exposure. But yeah, that's our strategy. For now, we're still working around the numbers, and we're trying to see what best comes in for our first 1,000 subscribers, 10,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. We'll see what motivates them, and then whilst at the same time still keeping our economy, constant. So yeah.
Right, indeed. So that you see that as a dynamic process, and it has to be refined at every stage.
Absolutely.
So at the initial stages, probably there's a cost of customer acquisition for you. You will have to probably burn some of your resources in order to actually get customers, and then eventually you will build an economy of it.
Yes, yes. It's normal. We've burnt a lot of resources already in app development. We've burnt in marketing. Right now, we're trying to use different marketing strategies to get out there because we're just about to begin the curve of marketing. So we're looking at, giving early access to people. So essentially, people who are able to get early access to our app also get referral codes. They can invite their friends and earn XYZ amount of tokens for that activity. When they join our Discord community, they're able to also grind for things like whitelist and get, we have some nice marketing strategy around that, but we also have partnered with other companies. We have advisors as well who have communities they're going to expose us to. And all these things come at a cost, either financial cost or token cost. Advisors, they're not going to work for you for free. So we give them a certain amount of our tokens. It's all in our tokenomics. And then, of course, some of the things that you need to pay upfront for them. In our development, some of the arrangements we have, they're building for us, we pay a certain sum after. So it's costing a lot of money. So right now our burn rate is high, but it's okay. We know what we're building. And we're certain that making the money is good, but that's not, we want to build a quality product. It's not just about making the money. We want to build the quality, and however long it takes us to build that, we're ready. But thankfully, because of the buzz in the NFT, we're able to, let go of some of our NFTs. We have about a 5,000 collection of unique built NFTs, and we let go of that. Some liquidity comes in, and then we're able to furthermore propel and push through with development of our app. So yeah.
Right, indeed. So now this is based on blockchain. So you're imagining a decentralized kind of a version. So what is the level of decentralization that we can see in a product like this? So does the constitution of the product itself, the rules of the product, who gets how many tokens, and so is that also something that the voters can decide, or is that within central control? What is the level of centralization that will be possible?
Essentially, we're a decentralized autonomous organization, and we're doing that intelligently because it's important when you're building a governance token, you have to do it right. Everybody just throws out the word a DAO out there. It's easy to do that right now because it's a buzzword. But at the moment, I don't think it's safe to say that they are really completely DAOs at the moment. There's still going to be a central source of directive coming through. Even the DAOs are often those who have the most tokens or have the most influence in the community. So in a sense, the decisions are still made by that. But essentially, we know that even as much as we say that crypto is centralized, exchanges like Binance are not decentralized. They're centralized. Apart from exchanges like what's it called? Like is it Cake now? The rest. So yes, we're trying to build as much as we can, ensure that we build a community that enforces decisions through voting, which is our DAO system. And we're trying to, as much as possible as we can, decentralize our application so that anybody anywhere can access it. So those are the two fundamental things. It's very difficult to build a project like this completely decentralized. There's going to be certain parts of the project that are centralized and decentralized, particularly in decision making. We are the ones who pull up the options. If you create the options, you're the one who's in charge. Because if I offer you just two options, I have the power of creating those choices. So your responsibility is to choose based on your market preference, which will be better. So that's where we're coming from. When it comes to making the choices, we leave it to the community to do that. But when it comes to making the options, we will create that. So it's 50-50,
Right, indeed. So also geographically, where do you see most of the users coming from? Are you targeting Africa at this moment, or are there more areas within the scope?
Yes. We're not trying to limit our exposure just to Africa for many reasons. Income, earning capacities. Most Africans might not be able to afford buying an NFT for $1,000 or $2,000 because of the income range over there. But we want to, as much as possible, build a global brand. And that's why we're in Dubai. We could have been in Mozambique or Tanzania or Ghana or anywhere else, but we decided to come to Dubai because Dubai gives us that global footprint. Our company is here in Dubai, and it gives us that bit of a global relevance. When people want to engage with us, it's easy for them to just interact here in Dubai as compared to going all the way to Africa. We have advisors here in Dubai. We have partners here in Dubai. But however, we're building our prototype to seeing how we can first get the attraction from the African market, even though they're not our only targets. We have a global market. NFTs are global. Anybody anywhere can purchase. So that's another beautiful thing about the decentralization, because anybody, we're working with Magic Eden to list some of our tokens, to list our NFTs. So anybody anywhere can purchase. But when it comes to building our product, we're trying to see how we can, first of all, build for even those who cannot necessarily afford to pay for it, and then we scale that globally.
Right, indeed. So So primarily, are you targeting emerging markets? And so those are the kind of gaps and problems that you're trying to solve.
Yes. We're targeting those emerging markets. Somebody has to build at the end of the day. And because of our history, Africa, we've seen that most of the people who are building are coming out of Africa to build for Africans. But we are Africans. We want to see as much as how we can build for our own communities first. So emerging markets, yes. Third world countries, yes. They might not be able to afford to pay for it, but then there are partnerships that are installed. There are NGOs that are willing to push the boundaries of this. So there's so many ways we can earn while building solutions for them. At first, to just create a prototype. Gaming is rising in Africa as well. There are now many gamers that are coming. I mean, Africans play a lot of games, and we want to see how we can also take a bit of that market and not just leave it to chance. So yes, emerging markets is our core target right now. But we're going to, of course, get funding from already emerging markets. Emerging markets often cannot pay for your product most of the time, so we know that. So we're building a good brand, that we'll see how we can get funding from the external world.
Right, indeed. So also now, since your target is emerging markets, and so there is a very large amount of population available in terms of the target audience. So not only in Africa, probably South Asia and other regions also. So do you believe the blockchain technology that we have today, that it is probably not ready to?
Hello, I didn't hear you. Network, okay.
Yeah. Okay, is it good now?
Yeah, it's good now. I can hear you now.
Right. So, okay. So I was getting to the point that the blockchain technologies that we have today, they are not ready for mass adoption. They cannot handle millions or billions of transactions. But how do we overcome that challenge? And do you see that technology reaching that point soon enough to really support this?
Absolutely. The innovation is still recent, it's still new, and evolution always happens. Even with Solana, as of yesterday, the Solana network was down. And we know that these are things that will keep coming up, but that's the good thing. We need to see these challenges early on so that people solve them. There are developers who are working day and night to evolve. At the moment, of course, technology is still a bit limited. Even transactions, which are the core framework for the beginning, are finding it a bit difficult. Network congestions, high transaction fees. We've seen all of that happen. But the good thing is, for instance, Ethereum is one of the companies that is really evolving with the L2 tokens. They're evolving. So we cannot say we're not going to build for the future because of the limitations we have right now. These limitations are being taken care of. Even in our team, as we begin to grow and get funding, we're seeking to get the best developers that we can afford to pay and see how we can begin to provide solutions to this. Who knows, we might even decide to build our own blockchain. But for now, we're leveraging on those that are already existing. And I can see that you're doing a great job at that already. All these things would evolve. There's no brand or no industry that needs to scale that will not combat these challenges, but we're going to evolve. We've already done so well. The cryptocurrency blockchain is barely about 9 years, 10, let's say about 12 years old now. And we're already combating with industries that have been there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So I dare say that we're growing at a rather increasing rate, and there are much more skilled developing hands that are evolving every other day. So yes, I do agree that we can't build scale mass adoption right now, but we're getting there and things have improved drastically. We can handle 1 million transactions right now. We can handle that significantly every hour, for instance. So it's just a matter of time. These things will get better. When the internet started, it wasn't like the way it is right now. We could not have a virtual conversation like this. We have to be in the same location. But as time progresses, technology improves, and yes, we're able to scale even much more. So there's no fear there. We build what we have now while we wait for what's coming.
Right, indeed. So now coming to the second aspect of this project, which is the Metaverse. So do you believe, so now as you mentioned that you want to solve some of the infrastructure problems that probably emerging markets faces. So how do you see Metaverse actually solving the physical infrastructure problems that we have today?
Yes, the Metaverse is exciting because you don't have to go anywhere. The cost of moving alone can steal away time that can be used already. So we're looking at how we limit, we don't want to, because humans are social creatures, we cannot completely take away from the fact that we need to engage even physically. I mean, we saw how COVID dealt with all of us. Most of us couldn't interact with our friends, we couldn't go out, but then stocks like Zoom began to soar high, essentially because, they still allowed for some level of interconnectivity. The world is maturing to a point where we know that it's okay to converse over the phone. If we had to do this interview sometime in 10 years ago, it won't be possible. We have to be in the same location. So we know that the Metaverse is going to act in that same way as well. We're going to be able to give people access to things that they will have to travel miles for, travel experiences can now be conducted sitting in your apartment. We're going to give them a new immersive world. So, for now, what we see happening is the metaverse is going to avail so much products that will limit the necessary movement of people, but at the same time, it's also be creating jobs, because now we're going to need developers to build, we're going to need content creators to build, we're going to need all kinds of infrastructure to help to ensure that the metaverse it evolves into what it is. And in Africa, back home in Africa, they're very open to this technology. So it's going to drive adoption in terms of education, in terms of entertainment. Imagine having a concert. We have African artists, for instance, are big. Whiskey, Davido, Burna Boy, they're doing soul on international stage. Imagine we're having concerts in the metaverse for Africans. It's going to be easier for them to just engage and be part of these things. So we see adoption in terms of people getting jobs. Easily right now, people getting access to concerts they normally wouldn't, people getting access to education. So yes, so many ways, so many integrations that the metaverse is going to help solve. It's not going to be instant, of course. It's not going to be instant, but eventually you are going to get there. Although I do not think that will completely take away from the fact that we still need to see physically.
Right.
Yeah, but yes.
So specifically in the case of learning, or in the case of a metaversity, what kinds of spaces and what kind of infrastructure do you imagine we can provide to students in metaverse?
So our education system has largely been built upon the industrial age. So most people would go to school by 8 o'clock in the morning. It's been stereotyped to help people work industrial jobs, but we're moving beyond that. And even though there are specialized careers like medicine, like law, that you're going to need to go through is synchronized data to learn to become efficient in those courses, there are many other courses that are evolving beyond that. And our universities have not yet all adopted this new emerging wave of knowledge acquisition. Most people have dropped out of schools just because they find that YouTube might be a better option for them, but they don't know how to aggregate the information properly to see that they have a certain end goal. So they just study everything from here, take a little from here, take a little from here. But we want to create an infrastructure whereby we will build something that once you go through our portal, if you want to become perhaps a content creator, you're going to be able to access the best digital content for that. Of course, we're not going to do it all. We're not going to be we're going to curate content, even though we're going to also create content. So we're going to ensure that people come through that channel. We give them innovative synchronized data to help fasting and remember, we're also going to have their data analytics. So we're going to see the best practices and customize those traits for individuals. It's a long-term, we're not building for 1 year, we're building a long-term plan. So artificial intelligence is also going to come into the mix, where we customize the user's learning experience based on their speed, their pace, how fast they can learn, how wide they can learn, how deep they can go, and give them content that is synchronized to measure up with their pace. This is the innovation we're looking. We know that education has to be personal to have the most impact. We have a system where everybody is thrown the same piece of information, and then whether you're smart or you're not smart, we divide them by examination scores. But that's not what we want to do. We want to incentivize people for everywhere that they are mentally, because different people, you cannot teach someone, I think it was Albert Einstein that says, you cannot judge a fish based on its inability to climb a tree. We want to create customized educational resources for these people and incentivize them for doing that as well. That way, more people will want to learn when they know that they are learning at their pace and they know that they are earning while learning at their pace. It becomes easier to create adoption for this. So this is the model we're trying to bring into the metaverse and see how we can, it's not just left for the metaverse. We're also trying to see how we can integrate it with Web2 and break them into structures. So yes, that's our strategy.
Right. So another stakeholder in this kind of an ecosystem would be the people who are creating this educational content. So how do you imagine their ability to create content, or their life will improve with such a product?
Can you say that again? I didn't understand it. Can you say that again?
So
can you rephrase it?
Right. So another stakeholder would be the people who are creating educational content. So how would their life improve, or what they can do with this new possibility?
Well, of course, our content creators, just like YouTube, for instance, the first benefit and the motivation to create content is you're going to get paid revenue when people watch your content. Now, when these content, initially YouTube used to pay significantly, but there were less creators, so typically people would earn more. But as competition begins to rise, competition is going to force out the best content. It always happens in every field, where people now want to only watch what they consider is the best. So whilst working with data that we have gotten from our user case, we're able to, with other stakeholders, create the best modules and see who can create to feed those best modules properly. And they earn. The incentivizing for them would be that they're earning from creating what they love to naturally do, but also knowing that the content that they're creating, they're already used to creating. We're not going to get creators from Mars or from Jupiter. They are still here. They're the same guys who are creating content. Our professors are going to be creating content, but now we want to have a governing body, sort of, that overlooks some of these content. It's going to be impossible to do it at scale, but with the few models which we'll create, it becomes easier for creators to know that these are what we're looking for. On YouTube, you can create anything. The only modifications would be don't use certain words or don't use certain images, don't be a racist, But I think that with more what's it called, modeling into creating content, it becomes easier to create stereotyped content for our people. So yes, incentivizing for them would be that they're earning, of course, from creating what they love to do, and that they're also impacting other people. You know how professors feel when they're graduating their students, to know that, hey, this guy passed through my class and he's now XYZ, whilst they earn from that. The system is not different. We're not going to create a system from Mars. It's still the same thing. You create, you get paid for it, and people get, impacted for what you've created so far. So yes, of course, it's also going to lead to a rise of influencers. At best, as we're thinking about it. Now we have a whole category known as influencers. So we also want to see how we can also create that influence capacity by content creating within the metaverse. So yes, that's essentially what they would benefit. You know that they're not earning in dollars, they're going to be earning our tokens. And as market evolves, the tokens are also going to mature. So they're both investing at the same time, and they're seeing return on their investment, both arithmetic and geometrical as well.
Indeed. So probably the early adopters who will earn these tokens, so they have actually invested more into the platform rather than the later adopters. So probably their contribution will be valued more eventually.
Yes, of course. Every market supports those who are early adopters. As long as you're early adopter in any market that is evolving, you will make a lot of money from it, as long as you're positioned right. But the thing is, as the market begins to evolve, there are other players that will also come into the team who will become better adopters, who might push away the early adopters away and still earn from it because of scalability. So yes, those who join in early will earn, and those who create the best will also earn. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Right, indeed. So another concept that we can probably add to this would be of decentralized identity, and so with that, a reputation score probably. So if there's a good instructor, probably he'll earn some reputation tokens or something on those lines. So what are your views on that, and how would that add to the ecosystem?
In terms of, how do you mean? Say that again. In terms of identity, how do you mean?
So it's like a decentralized identity.
Yes.
And so a good instructor could earn probably reputation coins and increase their own reputation score, and the same with the students. So how does that add to this ecosystem, and how does that add to the good quality of content creation?
Yes. So what you mean is, let me just to get you clearly, a content creator creates a content, and then perhaps he's upvoted for the quality of content he creates. What is the incentivizing for that? Is that what you're trying to say? So let's say I take an Uber ride, for instance, and I rate him 5 stars. Every other person who comes in sees that he has 5 stars. Obviously, they'll feel safer with getting into that vehicle. Yeah. So essentially, with things like Udemy and Ubuntu and all of the other platforms, when we see courses that have 5 stars by voting, typically people want to take those courses, thereby earning more. So automatically it's a marketing strategy for that user. But we haven't really created, it's a good thing we're talking about now, because now I'm seeing another area where we can perhaps incentivize them more for being the best at what they do. Because when people upvote them, of course, they are 5 stars. But then we're trying to see how we will not, because people can find a way around these things. For instance, when I take an Uber or a carrying vehicle, the driver tells me, please, can you just rate me 5 stars, even at the expense of him not driving properly? But we're going to try and see how we can incentivize both users to seeing how that works out in the play. Yeah, we haven't really focused a lot on that at the moment, but yes, it's a very good one. I'm going to speak with my team to see how we can work that out. So yeah.
Right.
But it's typically easy. The better your ratings are, the more people are going to want to watch your content. It's as simple as that. For instance, if I'm searching on YouTube, it's the content with the most views that I sometimes would tend towards watching. and it doesn't mean all the time that that's the best content. It's just the most viral. And it's not every time that virality equals equality. So we have to find the middle ground where we ensure that the content is actually suits for virality. Even though we can't control that. People want to watch what they want to watch. Yeah, that's the concept of virality. But we want to see how we can also boost, the watch time of those who have created great content but might not have as much views. So there are many strategies to use. And YouTube does, every other platform does, just showcase their content to more people once you've gone through and say that this is good content. So yes, and we'll work that out.
Right.
It's gonna work, yeah.
Right, indeed. So also, do you feel there are any regulatory challenges to your project? So because in different countries, the acceptance of these technologies and the regulations around this are very different. So going global with such a product, what are the regulatory challenges would you face?
Yes, we're going to face a lot of regulatory challenges. It's normal when you're changing borders, even if both countries just have a gate between them. Once you change into another geographic zone, regulation comes into play. But I know that because the world at the moment, cryptocurrencies are largely unregulated, there's no structure for that yet, but that's going to evolve as we go by, because now we have categories for digital assets. And because all cryptocurrencies are first currencies before they are crypto, no government is going to want to adopt fully, except if you are from a third world nation, even which they wouldn't want. So every government wants to use their currencies first. You're not going to replace a nation's currency because their currency is their voice in the global market. So they can't switch that for another currency. So what I see happening is there's going to be a lot of regulatory structures to protect the citizens of nations because, they're transferring their hard-earned money into your ecosystem. And even now, I think yesterday we had an arrest by the FBI for one of the NFTs, Nate, who had insider trading in OpenSea. These things are going to happen on that level. But now, because we're building an education product, every government wants people to be educated. It's going to be a bit easier for us to scale. As long as we're working within the confines of what that particular geographic location entails. It's going to be difficult to scale on many levels. That's why we're trying to see how we can at best decentralize our content pools, but then it's easy. It's the same way other brands have scaled. YouTube has scaled across anywhere you're in the world, you can watch YouTube, but the government would restrict certain types of content. Here in Dubai, certain kind of contents are restricted. So we'll work within those same lines as well. In China, the stepping app was reportedly banned, because obviously, so we're going to face those challenges, which it's normal. But I think with every ban, it's sort of like increases the reach of the product because now there's FUD, there's more. Every single time Bitcoin has been banned, it keeps on rising. So we're going to adopt the same. We're going to be careful with watching what regulatory. That's why we're also starting in the terrain we're conversant with. That's what we're developing for. We know the African terrain better. We know the government. We know how they operate. We have our people in the government. So we're going to be able to create within the lines. We have our legal advisory teams as well. So in every location we're going to want to adopt, we also have a team there that will give us an idea of how it works in that area. And we build basically focusing on that. So yes, if transactions can scale, we have PayPal, it's global payment transaction fee. We have Stripe, they've all scaled and gone beyond all of this. We're going to follow the same methodology as well. And we don't see any challenge happening. Every government just wants to protect their citizens. If you can prove to them that you can protect them, they're okay with you.
Right, indeed. So your vision of the entire product that you explained, so that's quite large and a lot of things probably need to be done for that. So what is your roadmap? Like, what is your step-by-step process that you plan to actually reach your vision?
All right, great. So for now, we have different kinds of roadmaps. There's a roadmap for us as an in-house team, and there's a roadmap for the community as well. And now the world favors speed over longevity. That's why we know Usain Bolt, but you might not know the longest, what's his name? Is it Mo Farah now? Most people will know Usain Bolt, but most people don't know who Mo Farah is because the world typically responds to speed as compared to longevity. But once the seller can marry both in. So our roadmap essentially was starting off with our NFT project because that's our first interaction into the marketplace. Everybody, we started last year. Our core team has been built. We have 12 people in our team. We have our 12-man core team, developers, graphic designers, marketers, all kinds of people, community managers also. So the roadmap is we've built that. Then where we are right now is marketing. We're about to start marketing our NFTs. With the integration into NFTs, we're going to be able to get a bit more liquidity, and then our token comes up afterwards. So first is to release we've built our NFTs. We have our base characters already. We're doing a bit of touches with the variations of these characters. Once we launch it in NFT, we're having 5,000 guys. We launch in the market, we raise up equity. With those equity, we're able to complete our partnership. Some of the partnerships are paid partnerships or just at the very discounted rate with some of our developers. We have all our developers are not in Africa. Even though Africans are great and we're Africans, there's still a limitation because of the amount of exposure they have been exposed to. We've realized that Indians, for instance, are great developers. They're really good with it. Chinese are great creators as well. So we partner with some companies even in India there to see how we can build some of our applications. So once we raise equity from both advisors, we're careful not to raise seed funding in the beginning so that we don't over-proliferate our assets. So we want to use a much more crowdfunding approach to get, that's why we're going through the NFT route. When that comes into play, we have a bit of liquidity. Whilst we're still earning from secondary markets and finding a system that works around that, we're going to begin to invest a lot into building our app infrastructure. The app is already just about 2 months. Once the NFT drop launches, we've already started infrastructure. We've looked at the entire process of how much it's going to cost us. And so once we do that, we launch into the app. Then once the app is launched, of course, our partnership with our virtual reality glasses also is ongoing. We build that, so that gives that immersive experience. And after we've launched that, our partnerships, because we need to have an MVP, a minimum viable product. With that scalability, and when we get to 100,000 members and see that we have no glitches and we've worked through our community, we're now moving to the next level of scaling. That will now involve partnerships with universities across certain locations. The core locations will be South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and I think we had Kenya. Those are the places we're looking to work with to start with. Partner with these guys, adopt from there. And then the rest is, you can push from there. There are some things you can't see now until you get to that point, but that's our roadmap for now. There's over 1.3 billion people in Africa. That's a huge market, and we're trying to see how we can take over from that first up before we get exposed to markets that we might not be typically used to just yet. I'm sure that you guys are building something as well for the Indian market. There's a lot of people in India as well who also would need your services. So yes, that's our roadmap for now. But we know we're going to launch everything, the game, our NFTs, our games are going to be ready this year, from now till the end of the year. And we see how adoption is. Step In raised over 2 million users in barely 6 months. We're just targeting to get at least 100,000 users first up, and then we use that data to move to the next level.
Right, indeed.
Yeah.
So, what I particularly feel while building these Web3 products, so you actually have to start with something that looks like Web2, then a Web 2.5, and then eventually go into Web3. So what I'm curious to understand, how do you go from 2.5 to 3? What are the steps that you're taking to make that jump?
All right, so now we know that the onboarding process, because most of our users might not even be in the NFT space right now. Our investors might be conversant with the NFT space, but our users might not be completely used to that, but they are used to certain things like a laptop. So we're first integrating, even our early access is from a simple registration that they are used to. Web2, integration, simple coding. They just give us our data. We have that data. Then we move them. Once the app is ready, we move them to our mobile app. Everybody's used to a mobile app. So that's our simple onboarding process. First, expose it to what they're used to, move them to the mobile app before we now introduce our Oculus glasses, our engage them to the Metaverse. So it's a 3-step process. But within the app, we're going to build both augmented reality so that they begin to experiment, to get a bit more comfortable with how the onboarding process is. Once they're comfortable, that we'll move on to the next. So just gently nudging them and taking them from one point to the other. So first, interact with what you're used to, then start getting comfortable with the app infrastructure, and then we begin to give them nudges here and there that expose them to Web3, and then we'll take it from there.
Right, indeed. So, apart from your project and other things that you're doing, what possibility do you see in the Web3 world for what kind of things do you imagine happening, and what excites you particularly about this space?
In general, what excites me about the Web3?
In general, yes, about Web3.
For me, it's the excitement that communities can come together to build something. Hitherto, I think there's a wealth decentralization that's ongoing. Most of us did not have access to money as we have access to it right now because there was a barrier. But now those walls have collapsed, and now we're able to access opportunities on a global scale. So now I'm sitting down somewhere in Accra, Ghana, and I'm here in Dubai and I access you over there. So I think that with Web3, that interconnectivity is going to be highly increased. And when the world is more connected, there's more opportunity. And now those guys who have not been able to, access this opportunity before, as long as they can skill up for them, they'll get paid for them. So the financial gains are enormous. And then, of course, the capacity for people like us to build, hitherto, only those who had access to Wall Street and Silicon Valley are able to get funding to build. But now we've moved beyond that. You can build a product and weigh in on the strength of your product by how the market responds to it. Once the market responds to that, same market will invest in your product before even the venture capitalists and Silicon Valley comes on board. So I see that Web3 is going to increase that much more, because now creators are going to be evolving, builders are going to be evolving, millennials are building, they're building different. I've seen intelligent projects, and I'm amazed at the teams that are building these things, So the building bar has been brought down. Anybody can build right now. There are resources for anybody to build on. And as we improve, just as when Web 2 started, Web 1 to Web 2, people could just, now there are plugins. You don't need to be a developer to build a website. There are so many websites, just drag and drop and then you're good. So we're going to begin to see this evolution as well into the metaverse as we evolve. There will be so many plugins here. People are building every other day. Next is going to become stronger. So apart from the financial opportunities, innovative opportunities, connection opportunities, there's going to be a lot, happening. So yes, we're optimistic, and I'm quite excited for those opportunities. So yeah.
Sure, indeed. So with that, Dave, thank you very much for giving us your time and appearing here today. It was a very insightful and interesting talk.
Thank you so much. I absolutely enjoyed it. You're such a good host. You made my mind, work a lot, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you also for that one area that we kind of overlooked that you just brought attention to. So we're going to work that out.